Welcome back. Let's continue our dialogue around types of total participation or student engagement methods. As a review, we have covered on the spot, which are those TPTs that a teacher can pull out of their hat at any moment in time with very or little preparation. Hold-ups, which can be combined with on the spot, which are something tactile or a visual cue from the students on how they want to respond. And the last, and perhaps one of the most exciting, is engagement strategies that involve movement. So let's talk about those. Total participation techniques involving movement. Have you ever noticed how getting up and being active gives you more energy to do whatever it is you need to do? Physical activity increases the number of capillaries in the brain, thus facilitating the transportation of blood. That increases the amount of oxygen in the blood, which the brain needs for fuel. The concentration of oxygen affects the brain's ability to carry out its task. So studies confirm that the higher the concentrations of oxygen in the blood significantly enhance cognitive performance in healthy young adults. Some forms of movement ought to be a staple in every lesson that we teach. The need for movement may be even more important than boys than girls. In fact, most literary activities are done silently while sitting for long periods of time, and that is a certain recipe for discouragement for our young men. Whatever the reason, the use for movement within your lesson can enhance learning for your students while providing you with the evidence that active participation and cognitive engagement provide. Find the question is the first TPT for movement that we want to have a dialogue around. This is handout 6, and you may want to stop and print it before we go on. Find the question is an activity to engage students and promote comprehension around text. So students first read the text. It might be a section of a chapter or the chapter itself. This reading can happen out loud. It could be a small group activity. It could be an independent reading. But in some manner, text needs to be read and processed by students. Then I would suggest that you assign students partners and they do this work together. You will create questions and answers around the content they just read. You'll put questions on the top of the page and answers on the bottom of the page, mixing them up so students have to circulate reading answers and then trying to locate the corresponding questions. When they find a match, the students write the letter of the correct answer by the answer's number. The activity is over when all the students have matched the questions and answers. This is a lot of fun done in the hallway, but even more fun done outside the classroom and maybe on the playground. I provided you an example of Find the Question in handout 6, and that will help you understand if you'll review it. If you do this one in your classroom, take a picture and let's tweet it out and show other people the exciting work you're doing in your classroom. Find the question. Here's what it does. It's linguistic, it's logical, it's visual spatial, it involves bodily kinesthetic, large muscle movement, it's inter and intrapersonal. The only one on this list that is not involved is music rhythmic. I encourage you to try this one out. It's a great amount of fun for your students. Another TPT that offers the opportunity for movement and engagement is called Laundry Day. This will be handout 7 in your course material. In Laundry Day, prior to the final assessment, teachers can use Laundry Day in their classrooms to allow students to prepare to clean up whatever it is they might not understand. On Laundry Day, students, when they come into the classroom, they find laundry jugs in 4 corners of the room. If you don't want to deal with jugs and you just want to make posters, not a problem. But ultimately, you have 4 corners with laundry detergent, product, or signs. Tide, Gain, Bold, and Cheer are the ones that I have typically used. In the 4 corners, if students select Tide, they selected this detergent if they believe the tidal wave of information might drown them. In the Tide corner, there will be learning activities that are comprehensive for the review before the summative assessment. Students from the Cheer group oftentimes hang out with the Tide group to help them learn. The second corner would be the detergent Gain. In this corner, students select this detergent if they understand the basic concepts but seem to be missing some of the finer details. Learning activities in this corner involve investigation as students identify the details around which they think they are insecure. They might use the textbook, their notes, homework examples, non-linguistic representation, the internet, and other classroom resources. The students in the Gain corner work collaboratively to help flesh out the additional information they need to prepare for the summative assessment. In the Bold corner, students select this detergent if they are fairly confident that they would pass the summative assessment, but still have just a few questions. Oftentimes, the activities the teacher places in the Bold corner involve creating possible review activities for future classes or test questions. The last corner are those students that would go to the Cheer corner. Students selected for this detergent are certain they will be successful on the exam. Any activities the teacher might post here would be to help students in the Tide section. Interestingly, a majority of the students in this category select the option of helping those in the Tide category rather than reviewing themselves. So Laundry Day allows for students to self-assess their current learning in preparation for the summative assessment. It does require quite a bit of prep by the teacher, as they need to place activities in each one of the corners to help students capture the missing information before the summative assessment. Collaboration, practice, and working together are critical areas of the Laundry Day activity. Again, that is on all the details are on handout 7 in your course guide. Bounce cards. Wow, this is a fun one. In bounce cards, students take a 3x5 or 5x7 card that has the following information. Take what one of your classmates said and bounce an idea off them. For example, you can use sentence starters of, that reminds me, I agree. Then the student who took the bounce cards sums it up. So they have to paraphrase or rephrase what they just thought they heard the student say. And the last step of the bounce card is to inquire, ensuring an understanding of what your classmates mean by asking them questions. I read an article recently about the number of questions teachers ask each day and the number of questions students ask each day. The moral of the article was, if students would ask more questions, our classrooms would be stronger places of learning. So the inquire step in the bounce process is not an option. You encourage students to ask at least one question of their partner. Bounce cards allow students to get up, move around, dialogue about content, and ask questions of their peers. The details of bounce cards are handout 8 in your course material. Bounce cards. 3 threes in a row is a student engagement defined and applied. In this strategy, students will have an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper that will have questions on it. Here's an example on the slide now. I created one that I might use for this course. I created 9 questions or 9 activities. Provide a definition of student engagement. Explain verbal participation by a student. You place a task or a question in each one of the 9 boxes. Now realize those 9 boxes are up to you. You might have 6 boxes, you might have 12 boxes. Your choice. I'm just using the example of 3 threes in a row. You could make it 4 fours in a row. Here's what I did when I was a teacher. I had students create these tasks. Where'd that take them on the cone of learning? At the 90% remembering level in 2 weeks. So rather than you creating these statements or tasks, have students create these statements or tasks. That can be a homework assignment the day before, then you assemble the sheet. Again, once they have their sheet, students are going to stand up, find a variety of partners, let the partners select one of these that they might respond to. Note, I have it highlighted on the slide. The person who owns the paper is the only one writing in the boxes. That's on purpose. So when I come up to you and I ask you to provide a definition for student engagement, I'm going to write your initials on the line, and then I'm going to write your definition in the box. That means I have to listen to you with the intent of understanding, and understanding enough that I can write those words down on my paper. I may have to inquire, I may have to ask you questions, I may have to ask you for more details, but I am the only one writing in the boxes. This 3 threes in a row. So in the 3 threes in a row, it's important that the person who owns the paper is the only one that writes on their paper. Then this can be used as a review sheet, a take-home study sheet, or if there's any missing information or incorrect information, the students can correct that information before they move on to the summative assessment. TPTs involving movement. Previously in our time together, we've talked about lineups. We've talked about networking sessions or 7-Eleven conversations. We've talked about appointments. That was like clock buddies. We've talked about contact partners. We've talked about 3 to get ready. And we've talked about 21. Other things to consider are strategy harvest, find a question, bounce cards, and 3 threes in a row. TPTs involving movement incorporate all the senses and the theory of space-hold memory. Think about how often you provide movement for your teachers each class period. Is there an opportunity for them to move around and get the blood flowing so the brain's working at the highest level it can? Pause the video and think about what you can do to increase movement with effectiveness with an academic purpose in your classroom.